Absolute thrill for a Thursday evening to have Clare Mackintosh come and talk about A Game of Lies. Hello, Clare.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for agreeing. Absolutely thrilled to have you. Would you like to tell us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, sure. So, A Game of Lies came out last week, and it is about a reality TV show being filmed in the Welsh Mountains. 7 contestants applied and were successful for a position on a show called Exposure, and they think the show is a kind of reality TV survival show. So they think they're going to be catching fish and building rafts and abseiling and all those kind of, SAS tough things. But when the cameras start rolling, a bombshell is dropped and they discover that actually the show is all about secrets. They've all got a dark secret in their past that they don't want anyone to know. And to stay in the game, they need to protect their own secret and expose someone else's. So the stakes are suddenly very high and very personal.
And it must have taken a lot of time. Now, obviously, we are not going to go into what the secrets are. That would be unfair to anyone who's read it. But must have taken some time to go into the things because they had to be realistic for this to work, and they all are. And you can feel the kind of the fear. It's almost visceral from the page. You know, the fear of the contestants being told, and it's described so well. You feel like you sat there gasping with them.
So the thing I wanted to do when I was thinking about these secrets is not make them all super dramatic. It's not realistic. These are ordinary people who have chosen to go on a reality TV show. It's not realistic that everybody has, killed somebody or committed crime, is a bank robber or something. Actually, what's more interesting, I think, is to know what people's everyday secrets are. Because what makes a secret valuable and makes it something that you want to protect and perhaps other people want to discover isn't the secret itself, it's what it means to you. And so, for example, I might be, I might be someone who chooses to dress up as a furry rabbit at weekends. Okay. And that's my thing. That's what I really enjoy. If I'm really cool with that, and actually I tell people all the time, it's not a secret. And maybe I don't tell people, but I still, there's no big deal if it gets out. Then that secret isn't valuable. But if it's something that I have fought to keep private, and I would be mortified if it got out, or I would lose my job because there's a clause in my job which says I absolutely must not dress up as a rabbit at the weekend, then suddenly that same secret becomes much more valuable. And that was what I wanted to do, was think about the personalities, the individuals who have these secrets, and work out what would be really important to them to keep quiet.
And it's really interesting to see, again, very carefully worded, how everybody else has their own opinion on each of the secrets and how they feel about them. So, as you say, to that person, it could be the most earth-shattering thing that they're so ashamed or they're so scared of it being revealed, so many different things. It's really interesting to see different points of view on each individual secret. I thought that was fascinating.
Thank you. There are lots of points of view in it, lots of characters. We hear from each of the 7 contestants, but we don't hear from them straight away. We in the first half of the book, we see those contestants. We kind of have a focus on each contestant, and we see them through the eyes of somebody watching the show. So for each of the first 7 episodes, we're watching it with somebody from the village or, someone involved in it. And then in the second half, we get to see that same action again, but through the perspective of the contestant. So there are loads of points of view, loads of characters, but it's quite straightforward, I think, to follow who's who. And it sounds like it could be a nightmare to have, I don't know how many, that there might even be 20 different points of view.
I did start making a note, and then I was so engrossed, I just stopped kind of writing it down.
I think
so there are quite a few.
There'll be 14. There are 16. There are 16 points of view, 7 local people watching the show, 7 contestants, and then, of course, the 2 detectives who narrate the story.
But obviously, you know what you're doing. So I know it's been, we'll talk about series versus standalone at some point, I'm sure. But we know who each chapter's point of view is from, and it's very, very easy to follow that and who they're talking to. And one of the things that I absolutely loved was how much I laughed. So we've got different kind of different things that people are saying out loud, and then you've got the thoughts in the head as well. And I love that kind of a dual narrative with one person and what they're saying and what they're thinking at the same time. I've just laughed so much at people's different thoughts of each other.
I'm glad. You know, I love a bit of humour in books, and I think that even if you're writing a crime novel with lots of death and destruction, you can still have a little bit of gallows humour. One of the things I was really playing around with was the idea of perspective and perception. And so when we're watching something on television, if it's reality TV show, if it's a documentary, you know, if it's presented as fact, then we believe it, or at least we're encouraged to believe that that's the truth. But I think we all understand how manipulative reality TV can be. And of course, it's curated and edited to make us think a particular way about a scenario or about a character. So that kind of seeing something from one person's point of view and then being in their head or seeing it from someone else's is all about exploring the manipulation of reality TV, the manipulation of the contestants on it, but also of the audience, because, you know, we're being played just as much as the contestants are.
I think it's really interesting when you learn a little bit about it, and you've got the idea of the editor. You forget just how much they can really make or break something, and really just how you can make something look like something it really isn't, just with editing, splicing scenes together.
Yeah, well, I read a blog. There's a whole website dedicated to identifying the continuity errors in Married at First Sight.
Okay.
And they're continuity errors which prove that things have been taken out of context. You know, that there'll be a woman saying a particular line, but she's wearing different jewelry, or, you know, there's something about it that shows that actually it was taken from another scene. And so this website literally exposes all of them, and it's very extensive, and it's quite horrifying to see how much it was manipulated, how much things were taken out of context, in order to, you know, make the audience feel a certain way.
I do remember watching me and my daughter, and I don't know a single other person other than me and my eldest who like to watch this. Every time I say it, people go, "You watch that, really?" And it's Hell's Kitchen. And they leave at the end of each episode, they kind of give an idea of what's going to happen the next time. And it is never anything like it looks. It always looks so dramatic. And you think, but now we sit there and go, well, that's not going to be that. But she's really good with patterns. So almost 99% of the time, she'll say to me, "No, Mum, what they're going to do is this." And she picks it up. She's really good with it.
Amazing.
And I think that's fascinating. But I'd be taken in by it, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think, you know, we want to be entertained. We're open to we put ourselves in a position where we're open to being manipulated, and we just kind of roll with it. But there are some reality TV shows that aren't like that. I mean, I absolutely loved BBC's The Traitors, and that was very different. That was it's amazing. It's so good, and that is slightly different because it was fair. It played fair with the contestants. They, you know, I haven't read a single thing about it afterwards which suggests that it was anything other than, you know, straight down the line. And of course, it's edited, but it's edited in a way that makes it sort of exciting, engaging, and, you know, cuts out the boring bits. But it's they haven't manipulated the contestants, and I liked that.
So it's still reflective of who the people really are.
I think so. I mean, I only know one of the contestants on The Traitors because we connected afterwards, and I did an event with her recently, and she is absolutely exactly the same as she was on television. So yeah, I'm going to say that they were pretty much themselves.
Because you did have a game show, didn't you? Yourself, Mark Billingham.
Cheska Major.
Thank you.
Yes.
I knew I was missing somebody there.
Yeah, and then Hannah Bichkowski, who was one of the Traitors winners, she hosted it for us hilariously. She was brilliant.
It must be so much fun because you do get to do a lot of different things. I know you do lots of interviews like this, you do a lot of panels, but something like that must be really nice to have something that's just that bit different.
Yeah, it is, because I mean, not there's anything wrong with doing a straightforward interview like this. It's obviously lovely, and particularly lovely to know that I'm here in one of the biggest crime fiction groups on Facebook. But it is nice to do something a bit different. So doing live stuff, or the game show things, or for The Last Party, which came out last year, I traveled around a few bookstores in the UK, and we had parties. So, The Last Party, we had cocktails and games and, a bit of fun. When my airplane-based thriller Hostage came out, we had a virtual flight, and that was absolutely brilliant. So people joined the event and they were guided to their seats by virtual flight attendants, and people had their in-flight sort of entertainment, and we had lots of flight related games. So I think it's nice to think outside the box, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We've got lots of hellos, so hello to everyone who is watching. Sarah Blackburn, I finally met somebody else who likes Hell's Kitchen. We know it's a big fix. We know it's it's nothing that it looks like, and I hope he's not really that mean. But we do quite enjoy the cooking challenges and different things. So we'll talk about that another time, Sarah. We should talk about Fionn and George. Georgina obviously likes to be called George, and Fionn. So this is your first series. How are you finding that? I know lots of authors who say, why have they done this? Dorothy Koomson's done, out of her 20 books, I think there are 2 that have kind of a sequel or a prequel to them.
Yeah.
And she's just said never again. Every time I ask her, she goes, no more.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's different, definitely. There was a time when I thought that series writers kind of had it easy, or easier than standalone writers, because they had an existing world and an existing cast of characters, and all they had to do was just go back to them, pick up where they left off. But it doesn't really work like that, because you're actually creating a new world, even if it's in the same universe, because you're dealing with a different set of situations and a different set of civilians, because you're not going to keep, if you're writing a detective series, you're not going to keep giving the same people crimes against them. That would be really unfair to make them continual victims of crime. So you are actually creating new characters and new worlds. And at the same time, you have to balance the story that you've already told with the one you want to tell now, and provide just enough information so that someone who's coming straight into book 2 or 6 or 19 or whatever knows a little bit about what's gone before, but not so much that it spoils the story. And I wanted to write A Game of Lies and subsequent books in such a way that it absolutely can be read as a standalone, because I find it quite frustrating as a reader if I come across a series that looks good, but it's book 8 in the series, and I don't know if I want to invest the time to read through from the beginning. Maybe I do, maybe it's brilliant and I'll want to, but what I want to do is I want to start on that 8th book, and if I love it, then maybe I'll go to the beginning. So A Game of Lies can absolutely be read on its own, but I think if you've read The Last Party, it'll give you that little bit of extra enjoyment, I suspect.
I think with The Last Party being referenced through this book, I don't feel like it would spoil anything. If anything, the way you've done it just deepens the depth of the relationship between the characters, because you're seeing kind of them, a short while later, And yeah, it's been referenced, but it's it's not spoilery at all.
No, and you asked about Ffion and George. So Ffion is a Welsh detective who grew up in the area that she polices, in a small village called Cumcoed, and she's quite a difficult person to work with, difficult to live with, just difficult really. And she, in the last party, she worked with Leo Brady, who is a detective from England, because Cumcoed is right on the border between England and Wales. And Leo is back in A Game of Lies, and their relationship sort of continues, pretty much picks up where we left them at the end of the last party. But George is also working with, Ffion is also working with George. So Detective Constable Georgina Kent, who works in the same CID office as Ffion, and they don't really get on at the start. So they've got to work out a way of working together as well.
They're actually comfortably uncomfortable, I think, would be a good term for them.
Yeah, I think they know that they're very different people, and actually neither of them really make much of an effort to get on. But there's also a lot about each other that they don't know, because they're both keeping things to themselves. So there will be more of a sort of unpicking, I think, of that relationship in subsequent books.
I'm really looking forward to that. I feel like they're going to have some really good rows and some really good conversations as well. And I don't know, maybe end up down the pub, or you just feel like there's going to be some real bonding, but they're still going to get on each other's nerves a bit.
Yes, definitely.
Not a bad thing. Keep each other sharp. Megan's joined us. Megan's in Australia.
Hi, Megan.
So we're looking at about 4:30 in the morning there, I believe.
Go to bed, Megan. What
Summer holidays,
doing?
the kids are probably up. My adults and teenagers will stay in bed until lunchtime. I don't think Megan's hit that point yet. So we should. I'm just going to say the word exclusive to you. And I'm going to ask you to give us a UKCBC exclusive, which you offered. I didn't ask. I will point out I wasn't being pusher.
We do have an exclusive. So I'm going to just preface this announcement by saying that I was a bit nervous about this book and how it might perform, because when you've had a number of Sunday Times bestsellers, it just ratchets up the pressure. And so I've been very fortunate that my first 6 novels have all been Sunday Times bestsellers. And I was very worried about this one, because it's a weird time in publishing. There are lots of celebrity novels. There are lots of subscription boxes that, can shoot to the top of the charts. And anyway, I was very worried, but I can exclusively reveal that this weekend, A Game of Lies will chart at number 8 in the Sunday Times top 10. So a huge thank you to anyone who bought the hardback, because this is the hardback charts, and made that happen.
Which is kind of doubly exciting in a way, because lots of books don't make it to hardback, and they're notoriously quite difficult to sell. So that is a huge achievement.
They are expensive things, and times are tough. So I really sympathise with anyone who is waiting for the hardback. And I know lots of people have read it on ebook, which is brilliant, or downloaded the audio. So however people read it, I'm just thrilled they're reading it. But I am this week I'm particularly grateful to my hardback readers, because it's a big commitment, and it's a big investment of people's money as well as their time. So I'm really grateful.
We've got some congratulations messages.
That's
one,
lovely.
Tony Millington, Sarah's doing a happy dance.
Thank
We've
you.
got it's such a lovely thing when we get to hear, because as you say, publishing's changing, and there are so many harsh times. There's so much hardness for so many people, but it's really encouraging to other authors as well when we see things are going really well. And you've worked at this for a long time. This is not an overnight success. You have really worked hard.
I do work hard, but every author I know works really hard, and they don't always have the luck to be in the right place at the right time to have their book read by as many people as should be reading it. So I work hard, but I've also had some really lucky breaks, and I'm just grateful for every day that I get to carry on doing this job.
You've been in Harrogate this week, so you will have met lots of our members. I was saying at one point, I think we stood about 5 feet away from each other, and then that was the only sighting I had of you all weekend. Are people going to be able to see you in other places in the coming weeks and months?
Yes, they are. So I've been, after Harrogate, I went to Leeds and where did I go? Chorley, Preston.
I know all of this because I've been told and I've looked, and my head has just...
So yeah, I've been to lots of places. I've just done some brilliant... Last night I did a great event in Liverpool with Fiona Cummins and C.L. Taylor. The night before that was with Fiona again at Simply Books in Bramall outside of Manchester. And coming up, I've got Abergavenny and Cardiff. No, Abergavenny and Swansea, I think, in the middle of August. I'll be at Capital Crime in London. I will be at Chiltern Kills in Buckinghamshire this autumn. Where else am I going? I'll be on the Queen Mary 2 this autumn in November on the Cheltenham at Sea literary cruise.
Wow,
so
really
that will be quite cool.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm around. Lots of events on my website, and it's always lovely to see people that I know, even if it's names that I know online.
That's the tricky thing, isn't it? If you've got a lot of people, it's a teeny tiny profile picture that you've seen on Twitter, and then you're trying to connect the dots. But luckily, most people will just say exactly who they are straight away.
They do. It's very helpful. I was at the book party earlier or last month, I think. I've lost track of time.
Yeah.
It was so brilliant. Absolutely amazing.
It looked fantastic.
It was just fantastic. It was brilliant. It was great to be able to meet so many book bloggers, bookstagrammers, book threaders. Is that a thing? And readers.
It is now.
Yeah. And I won an award. Look at this beautiful.
Aren't they gorgeous?
It's lovely. So yeah, I had a great time, and I'm annoyed that I can't go to their Christmas party in November. I shall be at sea, unfortunately, but I really recommend it to anyone that's thinking about going.
I wanted to ask you about books for Ukraine. You took part in an auction, and a lovely lady won her mum's name in a game of lies.
Yeah, well, she gave a very generous bid, and she won the choice to name a character. And what I normally do with characters that I've auctioned is they'll just be a kind of a bit part. I'll just sort of, slip a name in somewhere. It could be someone working in a coffee shop, but she told me lovely stories about her mum who'd sadly passed away, and she sounded like such a wonderful woman. So I actually made her a detective inspector, and she is likely to appear in subsequent books as well. So yeah, DC High, she might, I can't even remember. Bocacci, yeah, Christine Bocacci. And yeah, it was nice. It's nice. It's nice to be able to sort of honor somebody like that, I suppose.
Yeah, I thought it was a really, really lovely thing. Is that the first time a character has appeared from an auction, or I'm guessing not? I'm guessing you do this.
Yeah, I've done it a few times. I have to say I do it rarely, because firstly, I only write one book a year, if that. And so there's a limit to how many names, names are really important. Names of characters are important. And if I can just about cope with having no control over one name, maybe two. But imagine if I, gave over a dozen names every time I wrote a book. It would be really difficult, because the thing about names is you've got to they've got to stand out. They've got to be distinct enough. I will avoid starting names with the same letter. So I wouldn't have a Richard and a Robert, for example. Well, you can't have that kind of control if somebody is giving you a name, and they can look a bit out of place. So I keep it really low, and just very occasionally, if it's a cause that I feel strongly enough about. And we had a Ukrainian lady living with us at the time, and so it felt like it was really something I wanted to do for this particular auction.
Because the character names can really make or break part of the story, can't they? They really are as important as any other decision.
Yeah, and I find names really hard. I use Facebook quite a lot, actually. I'll trawl through someone else's friends list. So I'll pick someone at random on my friends list, and then I'll pick someone on theirs and theirs and theirs, and I'll just keep going till I'm 4 or 5 friends lists away from my own, and then I might borrow a surname, and I might borrow a first name from somewhere else and put them together. But I also change character names quite often. So in between drafts, I may well completely change a character's identity, and it helps me see the story through fresh eyes then.
I asked Fiona Cummins this the other day, and now I'm fascinated by it. Fiona doesn't plan at all. So when it comes to the series that she's working on, I asked about character arcs and, putting things in one that you may be going to deal with later. And she's not doing any of that on purpose. The whole idea terrified her. She didn't want to think about it. So do you have kind of some of that in mind, or are you working it out as you go along?
No, so I'm the opposite of Fiona. I plot my stories and plot them in quite a lot of detail before I write. But I'm not plotting a character arc over several books. And I think one of the reasons I'm not doing it is because it doesn't feel like a realistic thing to do. I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years' time, and so to if I told my characters that, I think it would influence how they behaved in the present moment. Whereas, whether they end up in relationships, out of relationships, pregnant, ill, in different jobs, I don't really want them knowing that yet. So I'm just going to go with the flow.
I'm assuming you picked Wales, A, because you live there, and B, because it is gorgeous for the setting for this one.
It's very atmospheric.
Yeah.
It's obviously the setting for the series as a whole, and it was the inspiration for The Last Party. I rarely start my books with scenes. I normally start them with concepts, with ideas, with questions I want to solve. But The Last Party was very different. I was standing by the edge of the lake in our town waiting to swim on New Year's Day, and I had a sudden vision of a body floating through the water, and it was the start of this book. So the series, the sort of the world for the series, then came out of the fact that we subsequently went into lockdown, and borders became really, really important in a way that they hadn't before. And the border between England and Wales, which you could largely ignore, suddenly you couldn't ignore it because it was actually against the law to cross it. And I wanted to play around with that a little bit more, and I wanted to explore some of the tensions between English and Welsh people in a way that hadn't been done before, and through the filter of fiction. And so I created this village with a lake through which the border between England and Wales runs, which would force two communities to work together. And so that then became the setting for the series, and it's a great setting to have because you're right, Wales is absolutely stunning, and I'm biased because I live up here, but North Wales in particular is spectacular.
Yeah, my sister lives there. Well, I don't think I've ever called her that out loud before. She's one of my best friends, but she lives in North Wales, and we love it when we go there. There is nowhere like it. It's absolutely stunning. Just going back to what you said about the start of the book, I like the fact that it started with a statement from Young Productions. I thought that was a really nice idea to start with, tonight's episode, I'm paraphrasing, but tonight's episode will be cancelled due to the events of the day. And immediately, just from a box this big, that was it, hooked. You know, it's no more than a short paragraph, but you really want to know what has happened, how has it happened,
Yeah, you want to know. Well, should I read it as I've got
yes, please.
Got it here. So the statement, so Sam's right, it's a really small box next to the map, and it says, statement. In light of today's tragic events, this evening's episode of Exposure will not be broadcast. All filming has now ceased, and the remaining contestants and crew are being supported. The matter is in the hands of the police, and we will be making no further comment at this time. Young Productions. So the reason that works is because we know now that something terrible is going to happen. We don't know exactly what it is, but we know it's bad enough for the police to be investigating it. There's something very ominous about the remaining contestants and crew. You know, we don't really know what's happened to them. We don't know how many people might be affected by this. So it's what gives us the suspense is everything we don't know. And if that statement had been bigger, then it wouldn't have been quite as compelling, I think.
I agree. And the fact that it said events, I was thinking, right, okay, where are we going with this? We know the 7 contestants. I actually did write the names down in case I couldn't remember on the spot. So we've got Jason, Pam, Aaliyah, Ryan, Lucas, Henry, and Kerry. So there is a lot going on. And as we talked about right at the beginning, you know, we've got lots of points of view, lots of different secrets. They're trying to guess each other's secrets to save themselves. I mean, the amount of planning that must have gone into that, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it was. I mean, but books aren't they? I mean, they're difficult things to write, whether you are someone who plots your books or whether you make it up on the spot. But that's the fun of it, you know. The first draft of this book wasn't at all what it ended up as. So, you know, the show actually was a survival style reality TV show. The murder happened in a very different way. Same victim, different murderer, different location, different MO. I mean, totally different. But when I got to the end of the book, firstly, it didn't quite work. And so my editor and I were talking about how to ratchet up the stakes a bit. Then while I was working on raising the stakes, I hit upon a way of killing someone or a way of creating a murder that would kind of feel impossible, that none of the suspects could have done it. It just wasn't feasible. But I knew how they did do it. And that was totally different from the first draft and required me to throw away everything I'd written and write a different version. So not even a second draft, just a different version of the story, which was kind of painful, but you know, it had to be done to create what I wanted to create.
Leslie's saying it sounds interesting. Leslie, you'd love this one. Leslie has, as you know, we get to know kind of, it's not members. We're a crime fiction family, and we talk about books and the things that we love, and we've really got a handle on what each other likes. And Leslie, you're gonna love this one. I wrote down courses. Are you studying? I attended a short story course that you did for is it Ty Newitt?
Oh, T Newitt.
I can never pronounce anything. Yeah, but it was an online one.
Definitely not short stories though, because I can't write short stories, and I've never taught a short story course.
What did I attend?
So it wouldn't have been short stories. It might have been structure. I could have done something on structure. I've done a couple of things for T Newitt in person, and possibly I did something online, but it wouldn't have been short stories. But it's great that you did it.
Well, I really enjoyed it. Why did I think it was short stories? Honestly, this week my brain has gone to mush. For anyone who was at Harrogate or has heard about Harrogate, you know why my brain has gone to mush and why I have no voice. But are you teaching more courses? Are you doing more online and in person, or is that something that you're not doing at the moment?
A little bit. So I teach in New York once a year for Thriller Fest, which is International Thriller Writers' annual conference. I occasionally do things for Tŷ Newydd in North Wales. And I mean, very occasionally we'll do something maybe for Society of Authors, but as a rule, I don't teach. I haven't got time to teach, Sam. I struggle enough for time to write my books. But yeah, occasionally, I mean, I do enjoy it, and I always get a lot from it. I always come away feeling really inspired, but it's it's not something I do very often.
And I've just looked at my email. It was Structure Your Novel.
Structure's my thing. I love teaching structure.
We are coming up to the end. We are going to cut it a little bit shorter tonight. It's been a heck of a week, and I'm really just glad that we could get some time and that my voice has held out. Would you like to give everyone a bit of a recap? And I will pop a link to the book in the comments as well.
Absolutely. So A Game of Lies is the second in a series featuring Welsh detective DC Ffion Morgan, who is a Welsh-speaking detective who lives and works in the community of Cwm Coed. And this community at the moment is up in arms about a reality TV show that's being filmed on the mountains above the village. 7 contestants who thought they were appearing on a survival reality TV show and are shocked to discover that the show, called Exposure, is all about secrets, and to stay in the game they need to guard their secret and perhaps expose someone else's. So Ffion Morgan becomes involved when one of the contestants goes missing, and things go from bad to worse when somebody is murdered.
And you are an evil genius for thinking of that. The link there in Be Live, the link looks dreadful, but actually on the Facebook page, it's just a really nice link. It's a really clean link, so I don't know why it's come up like that. Thank you so much for joining us after such a busy week, and you've been away the whole week.
It's such a pleasure. I am sorry to cut it short. As I was explaining to you earlier, I've been on tour for a week, and I go on holiday in the morning, and there's a heap of washing that I've got to go and do, and sort of maternal things to do. So I'm going to head off and do those.
Well, I've been constantly sipping water, holding on to my voice. So I think 45 minutes, I think we were good there. Thank you so much. I hope you'll come and join us for next time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all your family members who are supporting my books and reading A Game of Lies. I really appreciate it.